Welcome back to week 3 of social media and web analytics. Let's quickly discuss the learning activities for this week before diving into the material. So first is going to be the video lecture, which follows on from this quick overview. The topic this week is going to be talking about online reputation. And we want to think about 4 points. We want to think about why does online reputation matter? What mechanisms might be at play? We want to think about how bad online reputation might hurt a firm. So does it really matter? Then we might say, okay, if it does, one way as a firm I could get around having bad reputation is to generate fake reviews. Or if I'm another firm and I have a competing firm located somewhere near me, I could write fake reviews about them to try and decrease their reputation. And we want to think about, are there fake reviews and do they impact reputation, and how we might go about analyzing that kind of data. Finally, we're going to think about managerial responses to online reviews. So this is the idea that after a consumer posts some review about a product or about a firm, the firm can then respond. So what does this do to future reputation of the firm is what we want to understand in the final part of the video lecture. In addition to the video lecture this week, we're going to have our first in-person computing lecture. And what I'm going to do is pick up from the stuff we talked about in week 2, which was about regression, experiments, and differences. And we're going to do that with some data. So we're going to think about doing regression in R and doing it how. We're going to try and analyze data from experiments. We're going to analyze data from an A/B test. And then we're going to analyze data from a natural experiment and see how we can do that using linear regression and how we can interpret results. We'll also think about how to present those results in a way that's easy for someone else to digest. So like regression tables or coefficient plots, plotting the values of the regression coefficients as a way of kind of reporting results in a way that's going to be easily digestible for somebody else rather than just us as the analyst. Then moving to the labs, there's going to be a lab section this week where we're going to start adopting kind of a usual lab section flow. So there's going to be one of these marketing analytics in the wild tasks. And this week, you're going to work in small groups to think about some content from the previous week. So we're going to think about lurkers and how we might be able to activate lurkers on a social media platform. Our hypothetical example here is going to be TikTok. So work in small groups, think through how you might do that. And I would recommend before turning up to the lab section to think through that in my own time and have my own ideas how I might do that. So when I turn up to the discussion is going to be immediately kind of a, here's some competing ideas that might work, what one might be best and why. The second part of that lab section is going to review material from the first week, from the first week's lab section, which is going to be that visualizing social media data. Finally, there's the lab assignment for you guys to be working on. This week, we're going to be thinking about multiple regression. So again, tying back to week 2's course material, where we started to think about regression and causality. I want to get you guys to kind of hands-on go and run regressions in R and kind of refresh your mind how to do that. And it's really going to plug into week 2's lecture, week 2's video lecture, and then week 3, so this week's computer lecture, where we're going to do some of that live in class as well. The example is going to be price discrimination in an internet-mediated market, and really think about how to interpret results and think through shortcomings of different intermediate models we kind of walk through in that document, trying to understand why we get to a final model that we end up with. And also think about, how to do it, right? So invest the time in learning how to do it as well in terms of, writing down the code and executing it in R. For those of you where regression is still something that is relatively new, or maybe you haven't seen it for a while, so you want a refresher, the readings on week 2's tab of the course website has a bunch of material there you can access if you need it. One last thing before we jump into the video lecture is this week we're going to release the group assignment for you guys to work on over the next couple of weeks. And along with releasing that group assignment, we're going to put you into groups. And those groups are going to be made available on Canvas. So that assignment's going to be available. Once it's available, start thinking about it, contacting your group members, making sure everyone's reachable, thinking about how you might work on the group assignment, how you might split into how you're going to work together, and starting to think through some first answers to those problems.